Hey guys, today we're going to get into a little bit of digital painting, so I want to go ahead and have you open up two things. The first one's called Apple Sketch, and the second one is Apple, which is a photograph of the apple. Both of them are inside your V drive in the ME2 folder, so if you want to go ahead and open up that. I can't show it to you because I'm at home, so you can't see it from my end. Alright, so once you have it open, go ahead and open up the one that's called Apple Sketch. And I want you to save it in your name so that you don't save over my original. So go to File, Save As. And you can just call it Apple Sketch and then your name afterwards is fine. And then once you have it saved, let's go ahead and make a duplicate layer of our original. All our artwork's going to go on the duplicate layer. It can be deleted, it can change the opacity, but it doesn't affect the original image. Now that we have that, let's go over to the apple. We're going to use several tools today. The main one being is we're going to use the Eyedropper Tool, which is going to allow us to sample the colors that we want from this photograph. And we're going to use the brush tool right here, and we're going to use the mixer brush tool. Alright, so let's start with the eyedropper tool. First thing we're going to do is pick a color that we want to use to start painting, and let's just choose the middle tone for this. This would be a highlight, the really bright area. This would be a shadow. Down on the ground is a cast shadow, but for us, we want the mid-tone, which is probably this green right here. So if you click it, you'll notice wherever you click on this image, it changes right here in this box. So I'm going to click the middle, and let's go back to our apple sketch. So we now have the color that's the middle of the apple, and we need to go to the brush tool. So you can hit B on your keyboard for brush, or you can click it like this. We're going to go to Window, and we're going to go to Brush Presets. This is going to give us some options that we can choose from rather quickly as we go to work. You can see up here that you have all these different options. You can change your size up here. You can change the type of brush style you want. Take a minute and just play around. Don't save anything, but just play around with what happens when you use these and what it looks like. So that's that brush, just to get a feel for what it looks like. You can tell that if you've taken art class before, or if you've done painting before, you can tell that this really starts to resemble actual painting, which is pretty neat. So just play around with a few of these before you begin and kind of see what you like, what interests you. You can even get ones with lots of texture like this, or this one has like a spray paint effect. All these have kind of neat, different neat things. This one has like little highlights, not that we'll use that in this case, but you can go on down and you can see the variety of options. Even has patterns like a leaf pattern. Not that we would use that for this, but it's available, so just that you guys are aware. Alright, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose just maybe kind of a soft brush like this one right here. It's called Soft Round. This size is about right. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to leave it as normal mode up here. I'm going to leave my opacity the same up here. And I'm just going to start painting. Now you'll notice that this is going to cover up a chunk of like all of the black sketches underneath. That's okay. We're going to adjust it in a minute. I'm going to move my presets out of the way. Just click and drag to get over here to my layers panel. Alright. So with my and you can hit, I don't know if you saw what I did. If you hit this little arrow, it minimizes it, and then you can click it when you're ready. So I can choose over here on my blending modes, I can pick any of these. The best one when you're painting, I think, and it really just depends, but if you're painting with a sketch, I like to use Multiply. Sorry, I just selected Color Burn. I'm going to use Multiply. And what it does is it allows the sketch to come through, but if I click on and off with a visibility icon, you can see that it actually multiplies the intensity of the drawing too, which gives it a nice effect, I think, for us. You don't have to do that. You could leave it on, like let's say you did normal mode and you changed your opacity down. You can see that it'll allow it to come through, but it softens the color. It doesn't have the same intensity. I like it to have that intensity, so I'm going to change my mode over here to Multiply. You guys can play around with the blending modes, see which ones you like. Alright, so now that we've started to fill in some of the color, we need to go back to our photograph and look at where our highlights are and where our shadows are. Right here is a nice highlight. I'm going to click on the eyedropper tool and I'm going to sample this color, and you can see that it picked it up. I'm going to go back to my sketch and it's right in this area. So if I hit B for brush, it'll take me to the brush, and I can start to kind of fill in this highlighted area. For you guys, you have 2 monitors. Why don't you open up your Apple on one monitor and your Sketch on the other? For me, I have to keep going back and forth because I don't have that ability. I'm going to sample the shadow color now, and I notice that the shadow's on the side here, at the bottom, and on this left-hand side. I'm going to go back to my Apple sketch, B for brush, and I'm going to start to fill in some of this area. You can always erase, like see I've gone out of the lines a little bit here. You can erase that as you need to, simply by clicking on the eraser tool, and you can clean all this up later. Boy, I really went out of the lines. You can see how much brighter it is once I erase it. So it's up to you. You either paint neatly and you don't have to erase later, or you need to paint sloppy and then you can erase as you go, whatever you want to do. All right, so looking at this, this is great. We've started to lay down colors, but when you check it out, you can say, okay, well, what do I need to do for the side? Let's go ahead and sample this. And I'm going to come up to the sketch, and I'm going to lay in that color. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to sample this. Go back to my sketch and my brush. Lay in this color. And let's finish it out top right. Sample that color. Brush it on. Okay, and I just want to check the top of the apple. Fill it in. Now you might be wondering, okay, this looks okay, but it starts to look a little funky, and it's because you've got this and it's not blended well. So the way that you can change your blending is to click on here, and instead of the brush tool, let's do the mixer brush tool. All right, there are a lot of options in the mixer brush tool. You can, over here, change what type of mixing it's going to be. Anything from a stump blender. If you've drawn before, you know that a stump is like a thing that allows you to blend colors together. You can choose oil pastel, flat blender, all of these. I like to do right now just the airbrush smooth, low density. That kind of gives you a gradual blending. And you have options over here. If you click on this and you let it, if you let it hover over here, you can see that this says load the brush after each stroke, which means that it's assuming with this color right here, every time you blend over, it's going to pretend like it just dipped it in this paint color to blend with more. Or this one means clean after every brush stroke. Oh, sorry, this one means clean after every brush stroke, which means it's going to pretend like if you were really painting, you just cleaned your brush inside water. We're just going to leave it with load for now, and you're going to play around with it because you have to kind of get used to it. If you click on this, you can see that you have options. A dry brush would mean you don't have a lot of paint on it. Moist means that it's kind of semi-wet. Wet means it's really, really heavy. So you can play with all of this to get a feel for what you want. And you also can change the flow over here. But what happens is if you go over the area with this, it starts to blend, and you can see I put it on a really soft airbrush mode, so it's doing it gently. And I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see better. It starts to blend these colors together. That way you don't have any weird mixes. Let me see. There we go. Couldn't get my keyboard to work for a minute. All right, so it's blending these very, very softly. If I want to change the color, I can use the eyedropper tool and pick a different color that I want to blend and go black to my mixing, and it'll lay that color down. And as you can see, it's really soft, so it's starting to blend them just gently, ever so gently. I don't want it to be a really aggressive blend. So what I want you guys to do for today is to take this apple and make it as realistic looking as you can on the sketch by using the tools that I just showed you. And in the end, we can kind of see who got the hang of it and did the best job. From this point on, today I provided you with a sketch, but from this point on, I'm going to have you guys do your own sketches and then try filling them in from there. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll come around and help.